Listen up.
Welcome to the PowerShell Podcast, the podcast for PowerShell and the PowerShell community. And now, here's your host, Andrew Plaw.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the PowerShell Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Plaw, or at Andrew Plaw Tech, and we have a very exciting show in store for you today. I want to get started off with some blogs that I've been seeing. And I want to start with this one from 4sysops, which is create, configure, and delete system restore points with PowerShell VSS Admin EXE and system properties. Shows you the ways that you can use PowerShell to sort of handle your restore points and when you'll need to touch into VSS Admin. And if you are in charge of that kind of stuff, check it out. Use PowerShell whenever you can. Another cool module that I saw was the PS Linux module. So the Red Hat Satellite Search PowerShell module provides functions to retrieve and manage data from a Red Hat satellite server. This module allows users to specify search filters to query and fetch information about hosts and other resources managed by the satellite server. So if you're into the Red Hat world, this might be helpful for you. Check it out. It's a newer module. Install module or install-ps resource. PS Linux is the name of it. There is also a cool comparison sort of thing between Bash and PowerShell from someone with some experience in Bash, and they cover some of the benefits of PowerShell, some ways that you can tweak your Bash, and how Bash is helpful for day-to-day tasks. But the more complex you get, the benefits of PowerShell really start to shine through. And I thought that was a pretty interesting perspective to kind of read through. So pretty cool article there. I want to give a special shout out to a great community resource that I've plugged several times, use it regularly, psweekly.doust.dev. I recommend checking that out. Link is in the show notes every single week. Matthew Doust, previous guest, might get him again soon, who knows? He puts together some of the best things that come out every week. Obviously, the podcast is in there, but a bunch of other blogs, new modules, all kinds of great stuff. He curates it himself, only puts up the best of the best. So check out psweekly.doust.dev. Now, my PowerShell tip of this week, sometimes I do these, sometimes I don't, but I'm feeling it today. PowerShell and objects have been on my mind a lot lately. And understanding objects, right? Getting comfortable with piping things to get member. Even if you already know that objects have types and there's different types of objects, it's good to know that. But if you don't have a great understanding or you haven't interacted with it a bunch, take the opportunity to create some of your own PS custom objects, add properties to them, add another property to them, check out the output, get some hands-on experience because you really are going to want to be comfortable with working with objects in PowerShell. It is an object-oriented language. Take advantage of them. If you're writing scripts, output PS custom objects, you will thank yourself in the future. And it's a lot simpler than you might think, especially if you use the PS custom object type accelerator. So look at some things, get some hands on some objects. Let's get into the actual podcast with the actual guest. We have him waiting here. He may have heard me singing to myself because I didn't know he joined the call, but second time returning guest, two-time PSConf.EU speaker. Welcome to the podcast, Emrys MacInally.
Hi, Andrew. Hi.
Hey, how was PSConf.EU? I know you just kind of got back a few days ago. I know that was an exciting week for you.
Yeah, it was exciting as it is every year. It's great seeing all the people again, meeting new people, making new friendships. It's great.
I think that the first year of going to a conference like that is awesome. But the second, the third, as you keep going, you already have these friendships and you get the opportunity to make them deeper, to almost pick up where you left off in previous years and take things to the next level. So really excited you were able to attend again and speak for the second time. So what was speaking like for the second time? Because I know the first time, we covered it in the last podcast, you got some mentorship. It was your first time speaking and you ended up doing it successfully and it was a good experience. And here we are, fast forward exactly almost a year since we last talked on the podcast. And you're hot off the heels of another successful presentation. So how does that feel?
It feels absolutely amazing. So the first time I was super nervous, and the coming weeks up to the PSConf, I was just like a nerve wreck. This year, well, I was a lot more calmer because I just knew what was going to happen. The amount of time you have to put in preparation stayed the same, but was just a lot more relaxed, and I just enjoyed the whole experience a lot more. Because I just knew what was going to happen. I could enjoy everything. It was great.
And what were you speaking about this year?
So I spoke about versioning PowerShell modules, how we can do that manually, semi-manually, and with Git version. And my second talk was called The Art of Throwing Errors. So we just deep dived into the topic of throwing errors, my opinion why you shouldn't use throw anymore, and that sort of stuff. It was good.
Ooh, okay. I kind of want to dive into each of these and see what I can learn, having not seen the talk yet. But the talks will be available on YouTube, so keep an eye on the PSConf.EU channel as those get posted. But let's talk about versioning PowerShell modules. So I know what PowerShell modules are. They're like collections of scripts that we distribute and people can use, and they got functions in them and stuff. And they have a version associated with it. So when would you need to think about versioning your PowerShell modules? I guess when you're releasing a new version, you need to handle how you increment 0.1.1 or 0.1.2 or that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we have to version our software every time, or our module every time we want to publish it to the PS gallery or our internal PS repository, just to make sure that it's unique. In the talk, I emphasized about the importance of using semantic versioning, so that our major, minor, and patch version tell us a story about our module, tells us if something might be backward compatible, if new features were added, or just a bug fix was added to the module.
Okay, so let me break that down if we haven't heard of semantic versioning. So that's the 0.0.0 or number.number.number, right? And it goes major, minor, and then the release.
Major, minor, patch, exactly. So major is just basically every time you have a breaking change, you should increment the major version. So basically, you change the output of a function, and that might break someone's script against your module. Then you should increment the major version. Minor is every time you add a feature, but it's still backwards compatible. And patch version, basically every time you just do a bug fix, you should increment patch version.
Okay, so let's say I'm using a module. It's version 1.3.2. And in the future, they release a 2.0, but I can, assuming someone's using this properly, I can assume that 1.9.9 will still be compatible with what I've written in the past whenever it was at 1.7.2.
Yeah, correct, exactly. But as soon as you release the version 2.0, you cannot be sure that your scripts will run against it. They might, but not necessarily.
Okay, and as a module author and someone who's responsible for a project, that could be a helpful tool for you to be like, okay, I've done a bunch of changes. I can't make it all backwards compatible. That's okay. We just need to do a major version increase.
Yeah. Tell the user who's using the module what's going to happen so he can predict the outcome.
And when did you run across this in your PowerShelling?
Probably about 5 years ago. So about 5 years ago, when I switched jobs, I heavily got into module development. And within our company, I maintain, 20 modules. And therefore, it's just important that they're backwards compatible or tell the user what's going to happen with the new version. Give them some information.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely important stuff to do, especially if you're writing modules and maintaining them. Oh my gosh, your cat just jumped up, and I thought I had a cat on my desk because it was the side that was closest to mine. That threw me off. Well, shout out to your cat. What's your cat's name?
Mila, she's always on my desk when I work, mostly gets in the way, stops me typing.
Yeah, a few keystrokes here and there. They're worth the cuddles.
Definitely.
Back to the story at hand on versioning. So what is your end result you end up with? Are you using like a CI/CD pipeline to increment these things? What do you kind of end up with at the talk?
Yeah, so basically going through different approaches of versioning your module manually, by hand, by editing the PSD file, going through using update module manifest to script it, then going through some simple versions, how you auto increment it, and then finally going and having a look at the Git version as a tool which will help you create versions depending on your Git history.
Now that's interesting. Is that a PowerShell specific tool?
No, Git version is just a general tool. You can use it with any kind of project, be it C#, Java, whatever. So it's basically used for stamping artifacts. And our artifact in our case is just a PowerShell module. And so basically you install Git version, and as long as your source code is saved in Git, it will go through all your history, and depending on your config file and the rules you have in your Git configuration file, it will automatically figure out the version for you.
And you
Sounds
like that tool?
It's great. It's absolutely amazing. It's black magic.
Okay. Does it come installed as part of the Git, or is it a separate installation you need to get?
It's a separate installation. You have to make sure that's in your CI/CD pipeline and on your local computer, of course.
Yeah. And you want it on your local computer, so whenever you do test builds, or why would you want it installed locally?
I want it installed locally so I can check locally what version would come out now with this status of my development, because it only looks at the Git history. So theoretically, I should have the same version number as in the CI/CD pipeline, as long as I've got the whole Git history locally.
Nice. And that just as a dev helps you. It helps you to have those types of things at your fingertips. The same build process that would happen in a pipeline somewhere, having that local on your machine is sort of the standard that I see with dev workflows these days.
Yeah, so basically, if I'm developing a module, then I just want to build it locally, then test it. And then I want to have the right version. I know when I push it to my CI/CD pipeline that it will be built correctly.
Okay. Do you know more about the Git version thing? Because I'm thinking about my commit history. How is it going to tell if it's a major thing? Does it look for like breaking change or that type of language?
No. So basically, how it works, you have to find a Git version config file, and in that config file, you can basically define what should happen in different branches. So I've got mine configured, and that's what I showed at the conference, that if I create a new branch called feature/something, then it will automatically increment my minor version. If I create a new branch called patch something, then it will see, that branch is called patch, it will increment my patch version. And also you can configure it that it looks at your commit messages. So if you got a certain string in your commit message, it will know, oh, it's a breaking change. So in my case, it's a +semver major. And then Git version will see that commit message and know, now I have to increment the major version. So there's nothing I have to do. I just have to make sure my Git history is correct, and my commit messages are good, and then the rest will do automatically for me.
Wow. Okay. So that makes a little bit more sense. A little bit less magic-y now that you explain it, but super helpful if you can make that part of your build process going forward. So I think that's a great takeaway. If you're out there maintaining modules, check out Git version to help out with your semantic versioning. And you gave another talk that I also want to learn about. Of course, these talks at PSConf.EU are amazing. So there's a lot of takeaways. And if you look at the schedule of talks, there's a bunch of good talks. Did you have a lot of times when you were trying to decide on a talk and there were like multiple speakers you wanted to see at the same time?
Oh, that's the hardest decision, because there are 4 tracks, 4 parallel talks in general. And most of the time, they're like at least 2 talks that interest you.
Yeah.
As I'm an on-prem guy, I don't go to the Azure talks because I'm just on-prem guy. But there are so many amazing talks. Justin talking about VS Code extension, Björn talking about regex. So there are good talks.
Yeah. What was your favorite talk? If you had to pick one, you forget every other talk ever existed except for this one memory will stick with you forever. Which talk?
Good question. I really liked Björn's talk on regex.
Yeah.
I like regex talks, mainly because I don't understand them myself.
Do you use it ever, or is it like once a year kind of thing for you, and you have to look it up? Because that's where I'm at. I'm like once or twice a year I have to do something, and I know it can be solved well with regex, and I end up diving down the hole again, and I learn about the little magic thing, the slash that does the this and the that, and then I forget it again. But what about you?
It's the same. I use it a couple of dozen times a year, but not on a daily basis. So every time I will need a regex, I will start asking ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is really good on regex, and I will start looking up how does it work. But it's amazing what the guys do with regex. It's absolutely amazing, and maybe one day I'll understand it.
Honestly, I agree with you on the AI being pretty good at regex, especially if you tell it what to look for very specifically, and it's not super duper complex. I mean, I haven't tried anything super duper complex, but I've used it to generate a PowerShell function that looks for a specific string in this huge log file where I would have to do all this string parsing to do it myself, which I've done before. It's kind of fun, but I'd also rather just not do it. And then I just test it. Okay. Then I look up, there's like regex testers you can use as well to kind of see the results of things. But yeah, shout out to AI for that.
Yeah. But the more I use regex, the more I like it. So it's like just a relationship building slowly.
It's powerful. It can really do a lot. It is its own tool to have in your tool set. And I think every IT team having one person well-versed in regex is a game changer.
Definitely.
Yep. Next talk. And I talked to Bjorn beforehand, so I was excited for that regex thing. I think I even gave a shout out to Stephen Judd. He's our American regex stan, just always preaching the importance of regex. To many naysayers, there are many regex naysayers out there, which is interesting to see that dichotomy. But your next talk, you talked about the art of throwing errors, and you said you don't think you should use the throw command to output your errors and throw them as exceptions. So I'm guilty of doing that quite a bit. You want to expound on why I shouldn't be throwing errors?
Yeah. So basically, I'm guilty as sin when it comes to using the throw keyword and using throw keyword with just the message. But unfortunately, if you do that, you don't give your user who will receive and consume the error any information. So if you have to use throw because you want to, please do it with a error record and give them all the information needs, a proper exception, a category, a recommended action. Definitely do that in the future. But basically, when it comes to throw, I see two major drawbacks with throw. So first of all, if you use the throw keyword, it is a terminating error. So it will stop your code from executing after that error is thrown. However, if the user for some reason types in error action silently continue, it will actually turn the error into a non-terminating error, and your code after the throw will actually be executed. And that could be a dangerous thing. So that's the first reason I don't like throw. And the second reason I don't like throw is, so when you get your error message on your console, you see the fire which threw the error. So if you use write error or PSCommandlet write error or PSCommandlet throw terminating error, you will see the script of the coding script where the error was thrown. So your script you are working on. However, if you use the throw keyword, you will actually see the script where the error occurred right down the path. So let's assume you've got this great module and you use throw, and the users are writing a script. He's writing his 500-line script, and somewhere it calls your function, and that throws the error. It will not tell him on the first glance when his script the error was thrown, but it will say, oh, it's in users, documents, PowerShell, modules, version X, deep down where the error actually occurred. And that's not going to help the user. He wants to know where in his script the error was thrown, not where in the depths of that module. And that's why give the people the information, don't use throw, use PSCommandlet throw terminating errors instead.
So is that a type? What is PSCommandlet throw terminating error?
So PSCommandlet is a variable which you can use as soon as you got advanced function. So you got the PS command cmdlet binding on the head of your script or in your function. Then you got, if you've done that, then you got the PSCmdlet variable in your which you can access in your function, and that's got a method called throw terminating error. And that will then throw your terminating error for you, and you just have to pass in an error record.
Okay. And error records are pretty easy to get just from the error that's being thrown. There's a property called ErrorRecord, right?
Yeah, so you have to create your own error record with system management automation, error record new, and then you just pass in your exception, your category info, your target object, and then you can just feed that with all the information. And then you pass that error record to your method, and that gets thrown.
Interesting. That is good to know. I think that many of us, if we're writing scripts, you should be having some error handling in there, and doing it appropriately is going to serve you very well. And not just you who knows exactly how it's written, everyone down the road who's going to be consuming your scripts, which could change over time. So don't just think that you're just writing code for yourself. You'd be surprised.
No, so, I mean, if we write functions, we write them for other people to consume. And that's why we have to give them the best information as possible. I mean, to be honest, I hate writing error records because you just have to remember it. You have to go out and look for the exceptions. For that, I created a little module called ErrorRecord. Basically has two functions, new error record, and that will create an error record which you can use in your module. But if you don't want to have a dependency to my module, there's a new function called new error record string. You just pass in all the information. You have argument completes for all exceptions, and it will just print out a string which you can copy and just paste in your into your function, and you don't have to do anything anymore.
That makes it a lot easier. I'd much rather just type in new error record, give it the exception, the category, and go from there. Awesome. And that has 1 star on GitHub right now. So come on, people. If you're listening to this right now, check out the link in the show notes to the error record project. Give it a star. If you run into an issue, open up an issue or a PR. Let's get some good error writing practices going on around here, okay?
Or you can just go to the PS gallery and download it from there.
Install module or install PS resource. Error record. Simple enough. Well, cool. I appreciate you creating a tool out of that, because I was just thinking, oh gosh, I got to get like a code sample to send people. No, just check out the project. Makes it a lot easier. What are some other things? What are some other takeaways you have from PSConf.EU this year?
It was a great conference, as it is every year. So it's just great every year. It's great meeting the people, making new friends, meeting old friends. It's just like one of the most important weeks in the year for me personally. So I've been visiting PSConf since 2019, and it's just something I really appreciate. I have fun seeing the people, I have fun getting to know new people. You learn so much new stuff, and you just come home with a bag full of new ideas.
And here you are with that bag, a full bag. Are you a note taker at these conferences, or are you just noting like the important concepts you want to follow up on afterwards?
I don't really take a lot of notes, just the odd note, but basically I just try and suck up all the information I can, make a mental note, that I have to re-watch a talk, and then I want to dive into it.
2019 was your first year, you said, right?
Yeah.
How has the conference changed since then? Because I know there's been a lot of changes in the world at large, kind of affected conferences, but how are we doing now compared to then?
I think the conference definitely has evolved over the years. I think it's got better. It used to be in Hanover, regularly in Hanover. Then, of course, 2020 and 21 didn't happen because of COVID. And 22 was in Vienna, so that was the first time for a long time being in a new place. And Gail and his team just made an incredible job. It's just great fun. The social events are amazing. Yeah, it's a good laugh.
They pour their hearts into putting that on. You know, it's not a gentle undertaking. It's a big undertaking that whole PSConf.EU team takes very seriously, in my opinion. From what I've seen, it's very cool to see, and I'm very happy for our European friends that they have an awesome conference where they can go to get together.
Definitely. The whole organizers, they put in so much hard work to make everything as streamlined as possible. There are hardly any issues come up. It was great. So on Monday, we had the community bike ride through Antwerp. That was great fun. So,
you went?
Yes, I did this year. First time this year.
Nice. Did you rent a bike?
Yes. So basically like 30 people, maybe, plus minus, don't know exactly. And we all just hired a bike, and then we went out for a 20, 30 kilometer bike ride together. It was lots of fun.
I saw some good pictures. I think Steve Lee went on that as well, right?
I'm not sure if Steve Lee was there. I saw him, but I didn't see him on the bike ride. But there's so many people, you can't see everyone.
That's right. Maybe Steve Lee was on it. Maybe my memory is wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was posting a bunch of updates from PSConf.EU. And I saw people playing ping pong on 2 tables while Ben Reeder was speaking. I saw that on the old disc or the Twitters. Did you see that talk?
No, because I was playing ping pong.
Oh, you were on stage ping ponging?
Yeah, someone had the idea and just said, "Hey, we're going to do that," and I said, "Okay."
Go for it.
I don't know whose idea it was, but it was a good idea.
Interesting, and of course, I love the Yop Windows terminal. If you haven't seen the image, there's a very amazing image of Yop looking just like a rock star. You know the image I'm talking about?
Not exactly, to be honest.
Ben Reeder's Windows terminal profile has like a background image, and it's Yop with like scary clown makeup, looking like he's out of the band Kiss.
Oh, I didn't realize it was Yap.
Yeah,
I know
that's
that
Yap,
picture.
our
Okay.
very own.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Maybe I'll have a link in show notes to that image that we just talked about. Well, that's awesome. And I heard there was a pretty cool talk on mental health as well this year.
Yes, that was Rob's wife speaking about mental health, which is a very important topic. In PSConf, there's been a mental health talk since 2022 as one of the last talks, and it's an important topic which we should all be knowledgeable about. If it doesn't concern you personally, it might be a colleague having issues, so we should keep our eyes open, and if we know people who need help, we should give them help. And of course, everyone should know about how their own mental health and reflect how work's going and personal life's going, because it can be a tough thing to cope with.
It can, and things can change. I think we were talking about this beforehand, how as life goes on, we tend to acquire more responsibilities. More is required of us from the world around us, whether that be from family responsibilities to as we become more senior at work, we tend to have the experience that comes along with more responsibilities, and trying to navigate all of that can be really challenging. And sometimes for me, at least, it can kind of sneak up on you. Things are good, things are balanced, and then all of a sudden, if you're not checking in with yourself, you can find yourself very overwhelmed very easily. Especially, time just keeps going.
These things creep up on you and you don't notice, and it's very important that we just keep an open eye on our friends, colleagues, and yourself.
Yep. And even if we aren't personally struggling with this stuff, maybe we have a great, spot in life right now, it's important to be aware because other people aren't always there. And by being aware of these things and by living out these values, you create the space for other people to be able to communicate better and be themselves and share what they're going through with you. But we talk about public speaking and how that's really hard. And it's very hard to put yourself out there. And it can also be very hard to put yourself out there in a personal way with people. And a lot of people may not have a lot of trust with that whole experience, maybe some bad experiences in the past leading to them to be hesitant. But as people who are in their careers on teams with people, we can help lift them up and help be there for them and help create that safety. And for me, that's like kind of a goal of my career as I keep going through it, become more senior and stuff like that, is to do what I can to make it easier for me in the past, sort of other people really, but trying to make it easier for the next generation. I think PowerShell, the community, does a really good job at trying to live out those values of really trying to pay it forward and seeing the value in that. Because when we do help others and we create that safer community, we get to exist in that same community. It's not a selfish act. We're all connected in some way or another. So yeah, love to hear that.
Yeah. Out of personal knowledge is, if you've got something, if you think you've got issues, don't be afraid to get help. There are people that can help you. You just have to reach out. Don't try and fix it yourself because you won't be able to.
Yeah. And don't compare your issues to others. There's always going to be people who you could perceive as having it worse, but everyone is deserving of help and support. Even if you're not dealing with a mountain or life-changing event, you still deserve support and you'll be better off for it. You'll be able to be better yourself, be better taken care of, do better work, contribute to those around you more. It's the right way to do. Similar like how we talk about, don't struggle on a PowerScript for 6 hours without asking for help. The same kind of principle applies to our own life. If you're really struggling, the ability to talk to someone else about something you're dealing with can help you understand it, can validate some of the feelings you're having, and it doesn't have to be this like locked in a box kind of thing, which I find it interesting. There's some parallels to PowerShell and some of the other stuff we regularly talk about on the podcast. But now, in preparing for this talk, you were actually going to join us for the Christian Ritter episode, but you had some stuff come up. So what was it like for you to prepare for PSConf.EU, pretty big event, pretty socially taxing to be around people, potentially maybe a little bit out of the ordinary, while also juggling a lot of personal things in your life that you had going on?
Oh, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge, especially for someone like me who doesn't like I've had issues with speaking in front of crowds before, so that was a big leap. But as I said, after the experience from last year, I felt more confident this year. But it takes a lot of time, a lot of investment. But the good thing is I've got a good community. The PowerShell community is great. I can reach out to so many people and say, hey, this is my idea for the talk. Can I pitch my ideas? Can I test my storyline? So I have a certain social network where I can just go out and just say, hey, give me 1 or 2 hours of your time. What do you think? And that's great. I mean, yeah, Christian helped me, Björn helped me, other people helped me. So yeah, and I'll help them if they need help, of course.
Yeah, it's a nice mutual thing we have going on. So
Yeah.
I love to hear that. You feel pretty relieved now that it's over and it went well?
Yeah, of course, I feel relieved now. Now I'm thinking about next year.
What are you thinking for next year? You got any talk ideas?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay,
I'll
be there.
I don't want any stealing my ideas.
I will not steal your idea, but I will be front row at your talk next year. So a year from now, maybe we'll do an in-person interview at PSConf.EU.
Yeah, I hope you manage to go to Europe next year. Yeah.
It is written in stone, man. Your boy's going. We're going. If I got to self-fund, I'm there. I just waited a little too long and I checked the prices and I was like, okay, yeah, no. It is a little too expensive last minute. I also had a conference at the same time this year, which I'll probably not going to next year. So it'll all work out. And I get to experience PSConf.EU. I cannot wait. I've heard so many things for so many years. So many years I've looked at Twitter mistakenly during that week. And I've seen all these people that I admire, look up to, respect, hanging out. Meanwhile, me, I'm sitting in my home office alone, listening to jazz. That's not for me. I want to be with the people.
You did go to Summit, though.
I did. I can't complain. I'm not gonna. Don't get me there. But come on, Emrys, we want to hang out, man. We want to have a beer. I want to have, if I could be so bold as to request a beer from Lindner. Wait, why did I say Lindner Brewing? Is that your name? Yeah, that is it. Okay, I did say it right because I was like, that's not your last name. Yeah. Yes, Lindner Brewing beer. That is your home brew.
Okay. Yeah. Now I promise you, if you go to PSConf next year, I'll bring my beer.
Awesome. How's the beer brewing been for you? You still doing it?
I'm still doing it. I haven't had the time to do it a lot lately, but yeah, my liver says it's a good idea.
What type of beers are you brewing?
Anything IPAs, ales, lagers, anything which interests me. Fruit beers I like a lot.
What about hazy IPAs? You familiar with those?
Yeah, of course.
What makes it hazy?
So basically, it's the yeast, and which makes it hazy. The type of yeast you use, and you don't filter it, you don't refine it with a gelatin or anything. Yeah, and then it should stay hazy.
Nice. I enjoy those. Usually the percentage on those is a little higher, so I just have to drink one.
Yeah.
What are you sipping on?
I'm sipping on Castel Rouge from Belgium.
Delicious. Oh, I'm glad we caught you in your natural element. We got a cat, we got a beer, we got guitars. I mean, what other hobbies do you have? So you're a creative person?
I wouldn't say so. I mean,
evidence seems to suggest.
Yeah. No. Cooking's good. Cooking.
Yeah. What type of food are you cooking?
Oh, anything. Italian, German, international, Chinese, Asian, whatever.
Really? Wow. So you are a chef. If you are cooking Chinese food at home, you are into it.
Yeah, but it's not as good as from a Chinese restaurant. Just can't get there.
It's tough. One day. That's what we're working on our cooking skills. Awesome. Well, I have some challenging questions for you, my friend. And you may have answered these before, but listen, we live, we learn, we grow. Our perspective may change. Maybe you have different advice for previous you this year. I'm going to get things started off with, what is one time something went wrong while on the job, maybe while preparing for a talk, something work related, and how did you handle it? And what did you end up learning?
Thank God I've never had anything major really going wrong. So the only thing I can think about is like a pre-PowerShell issue I had when I went to a customer. So we didn't have PowerShell those days. We only had VB script or Perl. And basically I messed up an installation of a web portal, and it ended up me have to staying on for an extra week with a customer and me getting in trouble with my wife for not coming home.
Oh boy. What'd you learn there?
Be good to your wife.
Yeah,
Bring her a present.
that's true. Did you bring a present or did you learn afterwards that you should have?
No, I brought a present.
You're smart. Wise, as we say. Now, you're a consultant or what's your day job?
So I'm a team lead of a team called Deployment Automation. So basically what I do is automate on-prem deployments with a tool called Octopus Deploy. So that's my main focus, packaging artifacts, shipping them to customers, configure them all automatically with PowerShell and Octopus Deploy.
Cool. So you get experience with a lot of different environments, a lot of different IT teams.
Yeah, thank God I've got a team, which is not my team, a different team, which has all the customer contact. So I don't have any customer contact, thank God.
So you just work in the background and make things better.
I just work in the background and give other teams in the company support.
Interesting. I like those roles where you can just kind of focus on making the automation and the systems better that provide services to others. I've talked a lot about MSP life and how they get to really take advantage of automations that they create because they're seeing new environments regularly, implementing things regularly, transitioning, so on and so forth. So sounds like you have a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, but it's all on-prem. I work from home. I don't go out to customers. I don't travel a lot, which suits me currently with my kids.
Yeah.
But you never know, might change.
Yeah. How long have you been working from home?
Since when did COVID start? 2020? Yeah. Since COVID hit, I switched to home office, never went back to the office.
Do you like it?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I like having my animals, my dogs, my cat around me all day. I really do enjoy that.
I agree. Sometimes I'll go to conferences or I'll go to the office in Salt Lake City for a little bit, and I just don't work as good as I do at home. I just like my workflow. I like my comfort. I like being able to take 5-minute breaks and clear my head. Whereas in an office situation or at a conference, it's harder to get those types of breaks. Like just for me in people talking and stuff, it can kind of be draining. I like those silent 20 minutes that I can get in my office at home that are harder to find in other places. But, and I've been working from home for a long time, since before COVID for like 3 or 4 years. There are definitely downsides, which for me, it's harder to establish relationships with people. Sometimes you have to be deliberate about it. If you're trying to develop trust and relationships with people over Teams or Slack, you have to be conscious about it. Whereas in person, it's a lot easier to just casually talk about what you're working on, share with others, have that visibility. So I like going to conferences at least once or twice a year to get that feeling of like, oh, we're all in this together. We're actually connected. It's not just this weird thing on my computer that I log into every day. But fun stuff. I think a lot of places are actually going back to in office. I guess that transition has kind of always been happening, but I've just heard of a few friends who are having to gear up to go in office 3 to 5 days a week. Next question, good sir. With your knowledge now, and maybe if you could gear this towards people who haven't talked at a conference yet and are thinking of it, or they're preparing for their first talk, like Harm, he's getting ready for this year to start giving his first talks. So with your knowledge now, what one tip would you give your younger self or someone else who's getting ready to speak for the first time?
Don't be afraid. That's most important. Don't be intimidated from the other speakers. We all have knowledge about what we're talking about. Some people will have more knowledge than you. Some people will have less knowledge. It's nothing to freak out about. And just go for it. Look for a user group. Speak there. Just have trust. Everyone's nice. Everyone's there. All the attendees, they're just there to get information. Then no one's there to harm you. Everyone wants your best. And just hand in the abstract, and if the organizers think it's good enough, they will take you, and then you are good enough. Just go for it. Use the opportunity at conferences like at PSConf. You've got the community talks where anyone can present for 5 minutes and just try it out. As I said, go to a user group, start speaking in your own company. You don't even have to go externally. Start speaking in a company.
Great advice. I love the start speaking at your company. get some kind of internal user group going. If you're the one spearheading the effort, spoiler alert, it's going to be on you to kind of keep things going and having that initial content. And if you're doing it at work, it's likely that your coworkers are even more green to it than you, so you might feel some comfort there. And you'll realize quickly that this actually isn't a dangerous thing to be doing. There's not much risk. Not much can actually go wrong. If you say something incorrect, it's not the end of the world. People may correct you or give you some guidance there. It's not the end of the world. I recommend preparing properly. Don't cram it till the end. Just chip away at it consistently, and you'll feel confident knowing that you prepared. And people want to hear your perspective. And your perspective doesn't mean you're the know-it-all of everything. Your perspective means you're a person working with PowerShell, learning things, and talking about it. That's it. You don't have to be perfect. We want authentic experiences, and we want new speakers, because guess what? New speakers turn into recurring speakers, and that gives fuel to content for the future and keeps our community invigorated, engaged. So that's why we always hear people who have been giving talks for a while talk about getting others to do it, is because it's so core to what we're trying to accomplish here. So if you're out there and don't think you have anything to share your perspective. Share something you've learned. Share something you've done. Share something you've done a little bit of, but want to solidify your knowledge of. And like you're saying, find those user groups. I have a user group. Feel free to reach out. Happy to host anyone. I'll create a user group just for you to speak at and fill it with people for you. Got to find those ways. And people who aren't able to go to conferences, all right, because PSConf.EU, PowerShell Summit, things like that might be inaccessible to some. That's okay. You can still get involved in the community. Join the PowerShell Discord, aka.ms/PS Discord. A lot of great stuff there. Join user groups. Go to the PowerShell community call. That's a great way. They do live demos. It's a very inviting atmosphere as well there. A lot of PowerShell engineers and things like that are on the call. So a lot of different ways you can get involved, but get involved. You don't have to just listen to the podcast. You can interact back and forth with people as well. So I want to see more of that this year. That's a focus. Let's go. Last question. What are your 3 favorite modules this year? And you can plug your own stuff. You can plug it.
Okay. So this year, I'm not going to say import Excel. What I'm definitely going to say is a little module called configuration, which helps you persist configuration in your module. So it's a neat, small, nifty tool, which can really help you. So if you got a module and you have to save any configuration, use configuration. Don't do any new inventions. Just take that. It's really cool. I really like Stucco for module templating. That's my favorite. So really like that. And third module. Oh, it's difficult. It's difficult. Okay, I'm going to go for one of my own modules called Octopus Deploy. However, it's not freely available yet, but I will make it open source this year. So it's a module to interact with Octopus Deploy servers. And I've been developing it for 5 years. So it's like 80 functions helping to automate everything around Octopus Deploy. So hopefully I'll be able to publish it open source at the end of the year.
Huh. Maybe at PSConf.EU talk publishing internal modules. I don't know.
That might be an idea.
Don't steal it, anybody. Emrys had it first. Or maybe I had it first and you stole it from me. Oh my gosh. Anyways, it's yours. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Emrys. It's been great. Great to catch up with you. Looking forward to seeing you in person next year. And to everyone out there listening, thank you. I want to give a shout out to my friend Bradley Wyatt, who might be running right now. And if you're running, Bradley, keep running like somebody's chasing you. Chase those goals, man. And yeah, shout out for everyone listening. Discord.gg/PDQ. Check out the PowerShell scripting channel to get the down and dirty and join the inner circle, as we call it, which kind of sounds like a cult, but it's not. Emrys, thanks for joining, man. I wish you the best this year. Great things coming for you. Hopefully you get some good stuff done at work, and PSConf.EU next year, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, everybody out there. Drive safe, walk safe, work safe, whatever you're doing, do it safely.
Thanks for listening to the PowerShell Podcast. The PowerShell Podcast is a PDQ production, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick.